Hi guys, and welcome to my review of two gaming earphones. This time around I bring you the TRN Mars and the CVJ Assassin. The TRN Mars has been around for about a month, give or take, and while the Assassin has just been released. The TRN Mars is TRN's take on a gaming headphone, this new sensation that is now being slowly created, while the CVJ Assassin is the natural progression from the Konoka, which was their first take on a gaming earphone. What is different from these earphones to other gaming earphones, and by other gaming earphones we have some models from Celeste, we have some models from EPZ, is that these ones here, they all use three drivers, a BA and a DD, which so far is so fine. But it's that dynamic driver, that vibration driver, that they use both on the Mars, on the Assassin, and on the Konoka, which makes them stand out as being different, or a different approach to a gaming earphone, okay? Anyway, let me just quickly take you through the boxes, and then we'll start talking about the IEMs in a little bit more detail. The TRN box, nice box, simple, nothing too outrageous or nothing too fancy. You open it up, take away here this first cover, okay, and then underneath IEMs came over there. In this box we have all sorts of accessories which I've already taken out, tips, cable, everything. Let me just quickly show you here the tips. We got some foams, we got some normal silicones, and we've also got the famous TRN T-tips, okay. So in terms of tips, very well supplied, no lack of tips there, nothing. All right, let me just leave this over here. Okay, as for the cable that they're using on the TRN, it's a cable that we've seen already in the TRN Rosefinch, the TRN TA4, the TA3, if I'm not mistaken as well. The only difference here is that it has on the right side an extra connection here, which is for the microphone, detachable. So yeah, gaming. All right, besides the nice cable, because this cable actually is quite nice, and the microphone, it also brings an adapter for you to connect it up to your PC, and it brings a little dongle, okay, which is nice, very nice actually. As for the Assassin, again, a very simple box, plainer than the box from in terms of what it brings inside than the box from the Mars. Let me just see if I can open this up, because it's a little bit on the tight side. All right, once again, inside here comes the cable, which I'll show to you in a second, and then brings the stock, the usual TRN tips, brings a little adjustment tool here for the switches, which the Assassin brings, and that's basically it. So, you know, very simple accessories, lacking a little bit on the tips as compared to the TRN. The TRN actually is way better supplied in that aspect. And as for the cable as well, although it's also a cable with a microphone, detachable, and so on and so forth, it is a simpler cable. I mean, they could have done a little bit better, I guess, but look, it is what it is. That's it. So in terms of accessories overall, definitely the TRN takes the win. It's the best one. In terms of their price, so that we can also situate ourselves, the TRN goes for about $54 to $60, while the Assassin goes for around $59 to $65, okay. Both of these units came from Hi-Fi Go, but as is always the case, that is not going to be an issue in me giving my opinion about these IEMs, all right. On the actual TRN, and now just showing you a little bit better the TRN. The TRN is a plastic resin shell, looks more like plastic than resin, to be honest with you, although it does have a different feel in terms of the knock, but let's assume it's a good quality plastic. Metal faceplate, okay, and then inside you got the drivers. What you can notice in terms of the drivers, if you look carefully, let me see if I can try, there we go. If you can look carefully, you can see that the drivers are all stacked. If you look, let me see if I can get something here to point it out. All right, let's try this again. All right, there we go. So this first ring here, that's the vibration driver, In front we have the dynamic driver, and the BA sits on the nozzle. Okay, so they're using a slightly different configuration than, for example, the Assassin is using, which uses the BA and the nozzle, but then it uses the dynamic driver here and the vibration driver over here. The vibration driver basically fires through this hole over here. Okay, so in essence what they've done is they doing the same setup as they've done here on the Konoka. Okay, and in the Konoka you can actually see it quite well. Vibration driver, dynamic driver, BA. It is my understanding that the vibration driver being used in the Assassin is an updated one, as is the dynamic driver. I cannot confirm 100%, but with regards to the dynamic driver at least, but with regards to the vibration driver, it is an updated dynamic driver. As for the shell, if you actually just quickly look, okay, this is the Konoka, this is the Assassin. The shell is basically the same. What has changed, obviously, is that one is a full metal shell and the other one is a plastic shell. And that in itself already does entail a whole different approach to how the sound is done and how the vibration driver works and everything, okay? Jumping straight into the sound and so on. Because the TRN is only got one mode possible, which is with the vibration driver working all the time, I'm going to start by comparing it with this in that setup and then the Konoka as well in that setup. These two then do have those switches which enable you to switch off the vibration driver and actually switch off as well the BA, so they can also be used more effectively in terms of just for playing music, let's put it that way. All right. Let's start here with the Konoka. The Konoka was obviously the first one to come out with this sort of implementation. And, you know, it was obviously going to be having or facing certain problems. Problem number one is the shell being plastic. It doesn't confer, in my opinion, the correct weight necessary for the vibrations to be transmitted as much as possible into the ear canal, instead of just vibrating the shell and creating a sound which becomes very hollow, and it's like if you were speaking at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so that was the biggest issue here with the Konoka, the fact that the shell was a plastic shell. It didn't have the necessary density, let's put it that way, to allow the vibration driver to work, in my opinion, as it should be working. You don't want parasitic vibrations. You want as much as possible for those vibrations or that haptic field that is generated by that driver to be conveyed into your ear, okay? Then, and this applies across the board to all of them, then the dynamic driver itself was tuned in a manner where the bass was very, it's a well executed bass, but very thin, very relaxed as compared to how then the mids and upper mids were tuned. And the mids and upper mids here in the Konoka were tuned in a manner which was very, very energetic, and very quickly it became a little bit problematic, and it actually started shouting, and it wasn't nice. Why? Because at lower volumes you didn't really feel the vibration driver working, so you had to crank the volume up to get the vibration driver to start doing its magic. And that came accompanied then with a rise in the mids, upper mids, and treble especially, which was just way too intense. You have a couple of peaks there, which I'll show you in the graph section just now, that just was too much. So ultimately, what I ended up doing was I ended up retuning that part of the setup, and basically the retune just entailed putting two 500 grade dampers on, removing the stock grill and putting two 500 grade dampers on the nozzle. Or then, if you don't want to go to that trouble, you just take a 500 grade and you put it on top of the stock nozzle, because the stock nozzle has a filter which is a 200 grade, so you get about 700 filtering as opposed to 1000. And what that does, or what that has done, is obviously reconfigure the whole way that the mids and upper mids and treble are done, bring it down substantially, and make everything much more smoother, so that when you are using it now in its gaming setup, and you want to start hearing the vibration driver, vibrate and do its thing, you can crank it up without running the risk of the upper mids getting and the treble being too intense. Okay, nevertheless, still in that setup, you always do notice that the bass is a little bit thin, and accompanied with the hollowness that is created by this whole lack of density on the shell. As a gaming earphone, or to listen to movies, or to watch movies, my apologies, it's fun. It's great fun. You can feel like Jurassic Park and some Star Wars stuff as well, and it gives you a good feel. With regards to gaming, I don't do much gaming, but I actually went to the trouble of looking at some games and seeing their intros and so on and so forth. And yes, I can understand the magic of the vibration driver, and where it can actually help get you a better feel that or a more realistic feel that you are involved in the game. So in that setup, yes, I can say that the Konoka is good. Now, please keep in mind, stock format without the filters, it is a handful. It is. I'm not going to deny that it isn't a handful, but it is a handful. All right. So if you do have a Konoka and you don't have money to afford these two, because we're talking about $17 for this, and you want to get a little bit more out of it, just keep that in mind. 500 grade filters, and that's it. And this will become a much more enjoyable IEM. All right. So that compared to the TRN has got as well plenty of mids and plenty of upper mids and treble, even more so than there, but it also has the dynamic driver being much more present. So overall, the balance that you get is a more pleasant balance. The fact that the vibration driver is also mounted in a different manner does also make its presence felt slightly different. So I'm not going to say that it's better or worse. I'm going to say it's different. Although if I have to be fair, it more times was proving itself to be more properly executed than the Konoka, because that sensation of hollowness wasn't as present. It was still there, you could still feel, but the shell does have a little bit more density than the Konoka shell. You when you pick it up and you touch it, and it does. I mean, let me just take the Konoka shell, and if I hit it just, this feels way more flimsy. The metal faceplate as well on this here also helped to give that extra density that's required. So definitely this shell doesn't feel as hollow as this one. Actually, when you knock this one, the whole thing just seems to vibrate, especially when you have it in your ears. While on this one, it also vibrates, but it's more of a thump here. While here it's a hollow thump. Okay, here it's a hollow thump, while over here, I think you can hear that quite well. Okay. All right. So ultimately, when I compare these two, the TRN is a better IEM. It is better executed. It is more capable than the Konoka in its gaming setup. Although the tuning of the dynamic drive and BA are not perfect, they match everything nicer. So if I actually enjoyed the Konoka, as I was saying, watching some movies with the TRN, I enjoyed it more. I'm not going to deny it. The TRN is better. Also, the fact that the Konoka does the TRN does bring the nicer cable, the dongle. I guess you can make a case for it to justify it being $55, so being basically 3 times the price of the Konoka. All right, so we'll get into more detail in just now, but basically that's it. This is definitely a better IEM than the Konoka. It's still got that same hollowness like I mentioned, but overall the sound, everything is just more pleasant. Enter now the Assassin. And the Assassin, the main thing straight away, which I think is the reason why it actually comes out on top, and I'm just jumping the gun a little bit here, is because the shell is a full metal shell. The driver setup is basically the same as the Konoka, as I said, an improved vibration driver according to them. And as well, what they've also done is and this was in my review of the Konoka. I mentioned it, and it seems that CVJ did pay attention. They've retuned the dynamic and BA setup, and they've basically given it the tune that the Konoka has. However, the fact that the shell is a full metal shell as opposed to a plastic shell, and the bass and the whole graph, when you see it in a second, looks very, very equal. It gives the bass a different texture. It gives the bass, it's the same sort of energy, same everything. It just, the bass here feels way more present, way more significant, way more weighty than the bass on the Konoka, and that again conveys itself in a gaming setup to be very favorable. The fact that the shell is all metal, and the vibrations are now more competently sent into the ears, and there's a very low level of parasitic vibrations, does away with a lot of that hollowness. Okay, so if I was to somehow grade the hollowness sensation in terms of percentage, if that there was, let's say, 80% hollow, okay, the sound, the TRN has brought it down to around 60%, okay, and this has brought it down even further to about 30%. So without question, in my opinion, the one that is the most competent in gaming, okay, because of the way that the vibration driver is working, the lack of that hollow feel that you get, the more effective, more you actually do feel here when you start cranking the volume up a little bit. You do feel your eardrums sting a little bit from the vibration that that driver is conveying. The Assassin is the best one, unquestionable. In terms of the dynamic driver and treble and BA, and how they match then the vibration driver and complement the vibration driver as well, the execution for me is the best one as well compared to the rest. The mids are very well done. The treble is perfect. It's cleaner than on the Konoka. If on the Konoka you notice that there's a BA there, definitely the same thing which happens here on the TRN. You notice that disparity, that division of drivers. Here everything seems more coherent. Okay, even on occasions, even that vibration driver actually feels part of the equation, without that very prominent separation of vibration driver, dynamic driver, and BA. Okay, so as a gaming IEM, this one is the best. As an IEM to play music, and this can only now apply to these two, and as I said, if I use this one in its stock format, so I've now switched off the vibration driver, it's the number 2 switch is off, and I've either have the BA on or off, so either the first switch is on or off. If I use it that way, this to listen music is going to be a little bit of a handful, trust me. Way too little bass, way too much mids and upper mids. When you switch on the BA is really like doing its thing in terms of BA timbre. It is not nice. If you modify it like I've suggested, that improves significantly. The differences are monumental. Okay, so much better. The Assassin, it's without question the best. Not only have they taken care of that readjustment of the tuning for the dynamic driver and the BA, but the shell is also helping. So what you get with the BA on is a very nice sound, a sound which is very much is capable of competing with 1+1 IEMs that are out there and at around this price bracket. So I'm talking about things like the Krilla, I'm talking about things like the CVJ's own Nami. So very nice sound. If you switch off the BA, it becomes a little bit darker, and does lose a little bit in terms of the resolution and the detail retrieval. So the technicalities do go down slightly, but it's not dramatic. I personally like it with the BA working, because although you do feel there's a BA there and you do feel that little bit of that BA timbre and tonality, it is not badly done. I would even go as far as saying that it is perhaps more correct sounding than the KZ Krilla, and that's pretty decent. I mean, the KZ Krilla, I didn't think it was bad. Okay, fine. You could notice that the drivers, there were two drivers there. The matching, the coherency of the two drivers wasn't perhaps the best. But we always seem to forget that we were talking about an IM of $20, give or take. So let's not also be expecting too much. Over here, that coherence of the drivers is much better executed. It's way more polished. Just purely now as in its sound mode, bass is nice, it's smooth, there's no bleed into the mids. It's really well executed. It's not the fastest bass in the world. I mean, it could be a little bit quicker. I'm guessing they could have perhaps used a dynamic driver from one of the other models. I'm not sure which dynamic driver it's being used here, but it's not the dynamic driver, for example, of a May or of the CVJ Freedom. No, it's definitely not. So it's a dynamic driver which probably approximates itself more to the lower end, the entry level IEMs that they have. But nonetheless, it's nice. It's got good transition to the mids. The mids as well are very smooth, very relaxed. Male and female vocals come across perfectly. Nothing to be said there. The transition into the highs as well, very nice, very smooth. It's not. When I compare this in its sound mode with this in its modified version, it's the big jump. I mean, it is really, really nice. Very, very nicely executed. Technically, decent enough soundstage. It's not a huge soundstage. Imaging, slightly more competent in the imaging department. You can actually position things quite well. So well enough, at least for gaming. So for music, it will be as well. Very capable. Somehow, when you put the vibration driver working, that combination of the vibration driver does help improve the soundstage and does help improve the imaging. Not so noticeable in music, but noticeable more with regards to gaming. Like I was saying, those few previews that I saw of some games and so on, you could notice a marked improvement. So there was a better sensation of space, a better sensation of positioning, which obviously is what you require when you're doing gaming. So as going back then to as a music only setup, the technicalities are good. Soundstage, imaging, better than the soundstage, but it's fine. Detailed retrieval is very decent. Detailed retrieval is very nice, and resolution as well, very nice. So overall, competent in its technicalities, I would say. Timbre and tonality as well, very correct. Everything sounds, very correct. When you use it in the gaming mode, its technicalities, especially the soundstage and the imaging, are improved. And I'm guessing it's the fact that vibration does somehow help boost that, or give you a psychoacoustic illusion of those two characteristics being improved. All right, and that's it, guys. I mean, that's basically. There's not really much more to say. Like I said in the beginning, these two are priced roughly at the same value. This one does bring the dongle, a nicer cable, a few more tips, but you've limited to using it only as, oh yes, and the cable actually is also removable tips. The terminations, so definitely cable, very nice. And music wise, because you cannot switch off that vibration driver, and the setup here is still not being as ideal as the one on the Assassin. For me personally, I would choose the Assassin. Okay, because it does have this versatility of, you can use it as an IEM to play music when you feel like it, and it will do it in a very competent manner, mind you. And if you feel like gaming, you can also just switch the switches on to the respective positioning, and connect up the microphone, and there you go. You can go ahead and game, and to your heart's delight. They basically are the same price, so As for the Konoka, well, it was an interesting first take, as always is with novel products. But I mean, it's an outdated product. Let's put it that way. If you are in the market to buy a IEM for gaming, okay, and you can afford the 50 odd $60 that this costs, without question, get this. If on the other hand you are some of the people that already have a Konoka and want to at least enjoy it until it breaks down in many years, then I would suggest doing those mods like I said earlier. All right, anyway guys, I'll show you now quickly the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, welcome now to the graph section for the TRN Mars and also for the CVJ Assassin. Let me just take away some graphs here first, so that we can start seeing things in a little bit more detail. Anyway, I'm going to start by showing you the graph of the Konoka with the vibration working. So we are now looking at the graphs, and I'm going to show you all the graphs of all these three IEMs in their gaming mode. So the vibration driver is working, the full thing. As you can see, when you compare the Konoka without the vibration working and with then the vibration working, there's not much change in terms of the overall base energy. Everything stays basically the same. You do feel that obviously the vibration driver does add this bit here to the equation. So between 100 and 400 hertz roughly, you can say you got the driver there doing its thing, or at least in graph terms, that's where you see it's doing its thing. And then you got this crazy pina it goes from 69 to 82. So we got this 12 dB pina, this crazy peak here at around 2K, dip, then another peak here at 5, a couple of related extension of the BA. As I said, for you to feel the vibration driver working, you have to crank the volume. This shoots up and it just becomes a total mess. Okay, it just is not nice. All right, enters, and a lot of that is down to the fact of that the shell is not helping. It's a first implementation. Let's not also be too hard about it. Enter the TRN Mars. The TRN Mars, I've also normalized it at 1K. The TRN Mars, I think three things jump straight away to you. Way more bass, significantly more bass. We're talking about a difference of about 8 dBs, okay, at the low end here, 6 to 8 dBs, so significantly more bassy. The upper mids, the transition from the mids to upper mids as compared to the Konoka, it's not, it's maybe 2 dBs more, but then it's plateaued, it doesn't dip, okay? And then yes, you do notice that that BA there is working quite significantly. It hasn't been tamed in any way. Now, somehow the way that this whole comes across is much nicer than in the Konoka, much nicer. The bass that you have helps do away with a little bit of that thinness, also helps control the extra energy that you have here in the mids and the upper mids, and even the BA doesn't sound like it's trying to kill you. When you start increasing the volume, things scale in a much better manner, and ultimately it is unquestionably a better IEM than the Konoka, and it had to be. I mean, that's the reality. If it's, I guess it's a twofold thing. The reason why it's better, not only the shell is a more sturdy shell, but also the way that they've set up the drivers seems to have helped in obtaining a better execution of this technology. So ultimately, it is a nicer IEM. And then finally, we have then the Assassin, which is over here. Here is now the Assassin. Okay, and the Assassin also with its vibration driver working. You will notice straight away, let me just quickly take away the other two, that it's the one where the vibration driver seems to be more not tame, but it doesn't seem to affect so much the frequency response. Okay, You can notice as well straight away that it's got more bass than the Konoka. And then, coupled to the fact that they've retuned completely the mids, upper mids, and treble, makes for a balance which is way more interesting. While the balance in the Konoka was skewed totally into the mids and upper mids, okay, as you can see, the balance on the Assassin is very evenly matched. I mean, we're talking about everything sitting within a window of 69. The peak of the mids is at 76 or 70 dBs gain there, 9 dBs gain there. So everything sits within a much tighter window, sounds much nicer. And so much so that when I put it in its full sound mode, as you can see, it is truly a very nice sounding IEM. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the sound of the Assassin in its full sound setup. Okay, so just one switch on for the BA to work. You can also notice that the BA, let me just go back now to the gaming, the BA also has been tamed down, so it is unquestionably the best execution. Are there going to be improvements? I'm sure they are, because they are now in the right track. That's unquestionable. Compared to the TRN, and let me just take away here quickly the Konoka. Compared to the TRN, it doesn't have the same bass of the TRN, but it's not far off the bass from the TRN. The biggest difference is how then everything above 2K has been tuned. Much more mellow, much more relaxed. And like I said, the whole combination that comes across is much more coherent. You don't, first of all, notice that differentiation between the DD and the BA to start with. And even on occasions, as I mentioned earlier, that even the vibration driver seems to be part of the equation. It doesn't seem to be a third party that's over there. So without a margin, the best one in terms of its gaming capabilities. Everything scales very nicely. The vibration driver works nicely. The one thing that you must keep in mind with any one of these three models is you have to have a relatively harder tip. Sorry for my hand there. Harder tip. So you don't want a very soft tip. So that hard tip will allow for those vibrations to reach your ear more effectively. And in the Assassin, coupled with the fact it's a full metal shell, it works really well, really well. I have to say that it surprised me, actually. It really did. Because the jump is very big. There's a huge jump between the Assassin and the Konoka. Okay. In its full sound mode, and I'm just going to now refer to full sound mode. I'm going to take away the Mars. In its full sound mode, as you can see, perfect. The Konoka in its sound mode, it seemed like they had the same bass, but no, those mids and those upper mids were just ridiculous, and it just made for a sound which was it just couldn't do it. So as I mentioned, I retuned it, and when I retuned it, I came up with this here, which is the Konoka retuned with 2 filters on the nozzle, or then just a single 500 filter on the nozzle. And as you can see, I'm sure that they must have seen my video, and that helped them maybe consider what I was suggesting, and they did it because the Assassin is the way that it's now tuned in the sound mode is basically the same as I tuned the Konoka. And as I said earlier in the review, if you have a Konoka and you really want to try and get a little bit more out of it, this is definitely a mod that I recommend. I have another mod that I'm working on. Once that is done, I'll let you guys know. But definitely do it. If you have it, put the 2 dampers or a single damper, depending on how far you want to go, and you will not be disappointed with what the results you get. All right. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask me. And I think I've said it, but I'll just repeat it again. If you are looking for a gaming IEM, a more serious gaming IEM at around the $60 price point, without question, the Assassin is the more competent one. Although, having said that, The Mars does have its place because it does bring that dongle, it does have a nicer cable. So I'm guessing if you're just going to use it for gaming, I guess you could also have that as a choice. Although, as like I also mentioned, I think the fact that the Assassin offers the versatility of you using it as a gaming IEM, and a very good one at that, and also then use it as a full sound listening IEM, and also very competent at that. I think it's obvious what the choice is. All right. Anyway, guys, take care. Bye bye.